Ramakrishna Paramhansa, a great yogi, non-dualist, a tantric, a devotee and an avatar at the same time. He was one of the most prominent religious figures of India during the 19th century. Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa was a mystic and a yogi who translated complex spiritual concepts into lucid and easily intelligible manner. Born in a simple Bengali rural family in 1836, he pursued the divine throughout his life in various forms and believed in divine embodiment of the Supreme Being in every individual. He was believed to be the modern-day reincarnation of Lord Vishnu. Ramakrishna was the embodiment of spiritual salvation to troubled souls from all walks of life. He was a key figure in revival of Hinduism in Bengal at a time when intense spiritual crisis was gripping the province, leading to predominance of young Bengalis embracing Brahmanism and Christianity. In essence, his teachings were as traditional as ancient sages and seers, yet he remains contemporary throughout the ages. Ramakrishna was born as Gadadhar Chattopadhyay on February 18, 1836 to Khudiram Chattopadhyay and Chandramani Devi. The poor Brahmin family hailed from the Kamapukur village of Hubli district in Bengal Presidency. Young Gadadhar was sent to the village school to learn Sanskrit, but a reluctant student, he would often play truant. He loved to paint and create clay models of Hindu gods and goddesses. He was attracted to folk and mythological stories which he had heard from his mother. He gradually learnt Ramayana, Mahabharata, Puranas and other holy literature by heart just by hearing it from priests and sages. Young Gadadhar loved the nature so much that he used to spend much of his time in orchards and on the river banks. From a very young age, Gadadhar was religiously inclined and he would experience episodes of spiritual ecstasy from everyday incidents. He would go into trances while performing pujas or observing a religious drama. He had his first samadhi when he was 6 years old. He was walking along the paddy fields and a group of white cranes were flying against a dark cloud. This absorbed him in a state of trance or samadhi. After the death of Gadadhar's father in 1843, the responsibility of the family fell on his elder brother, Ramkumar. Ramkumar left home for Calcutta to earn for the family, and Gadadhar, back in his village, started performing regular worshipping of their family deity, previously handled by his brother. He was deeply religious and would perform the pujas ardently. Meanwhile, his elder brother had opened a school to teach Sanskrit in Calcutta and served as a priest at different socio-religious functions. Ramkumar sometimes pressurized him to study, but Ramakrishna would say that he has no interest in this bread-earning knowledge. He was totally unattached to the drama of this world since his childhood. Ramakrishna was married to 5-year-old Saradamani Mukhopadhyay from a neighboring village when he was 23 years of age in 1859. The couple stayed apart until Saradamani came of age and she joined her husband at Dakshineshwar at the age of 18. Ramakrishna proclaimed her as the embodiment of Divine Mother and performed the Shodashi Puja with her in the seat of Goddess Kali. She was an ardent follower of her husband's philosophies and took up the role of mother to his disciples with much ease. The Kali temple at Dakshineshwar was established by the celebrated philanthropist Queen of Janbazar, Calcutta, Rani Rashmoni, during 1855. Since the Queen's family belonged to the Kabata clan that was considered a lower caste by the Bengali society of the time, Rani Rashmoni was having immense difficulty in finding a priest for the temple. Rashmoni's son-in-law, Mathurbabu, came across Ramkumar in Calcutta and invited him to take the position of the head priest at the temple. Ramkumar obliged and sent for Gadadhar to join him at Dakshineshwar to assist him in the daily rituals. He arrived at Dakshineshwar and was entrusted with the duty of decorating the deity. Later Ramkumar died in 1856, leaving Ramakrishna to take over the position of the head priest at the temple. Thus began the long, celebrated journey of priesthood for Gadadhar. It is said that Mathurbabu, witnessing Gadadhar's piousness and certain supernatural incidents, gave the name Ramakrishna to young Gadadhar. As a worshipper of goddess Kali, Ramakrishna was considered a Shakt, but the technicalities did not limit him to worship the divine through other spiritual approaches. Ramakrishna was perhaps one of the very few yogis who had tried to experience divinity through a host of different avenues and have not stuck to one single way of spirituality. He schooled under a number of different gurus and absorbed their philosophies with equal eagerness. He worshipped God Rama as Hanuman, who was Rama's most devoted follower, and he even experienced vision of Sita merging with himself. He learned the nuances of Tantra sadhana, or tantric ways, from Bhairavi Brahmani, a female sage. Under her guidance Ramakrishna completed all 64 sadhanas of Tantras, even the most intricate and demanding of them. He also learned Kundalini Yoga from Bhairavi. He learned all of this in a very short period of time. Seeing this, Bhairavi began to recognize him as an avatar or incarnation. She said only an avatar can progress in this high pace. Ramakrishna next moved on to learning the inner mechanics of the Vaishnava faith, a faith starkly opposite in philosophy and practices to Shakt Tantric practices. He learned under the tutelage of Guru Jatadhari during 1864. He practiced Vatsalya Bhava, worshipping of God, specifically Lord Vishnu in a child image with the attitude of mother. He also practiced Madhurya Bhava, the central concepts of Vaishnav faith, synonymous with the love that Radha felt for Krishna. He visited Nadia and experienced a vision of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu merging in his body. Ramakrishna was initiated into sannyas or formal life of an ascetic during 1865 from monk Totapuri. Totapuri guided Ramakrishna through the rituals of renunciation and instructed him the teachings of Advaita Vedanta, Hindu philosophies dealing with non-dualism of spirit, and importance of Brahman. It was now that Ramakrishna attained his highest spiritual realization on Nirvikalp Samadhi, and was given the title of Paramhansa. His Guru Totapuri also recognized him as a great being, as Ramakrishna mastered that state in 3 days, which took him 40 years. In the subsequent years, he undertook practicing of Islam, with observing all the rituals of the religion in a devout manner. He even experienced vision of a radiant white bearded man. His tryst with Christianity came much later, in 1873, when a devotee read the Bible to him and he got immersed in the thoughts of Christ. He had a vision of Madonna and child and of Jesus himself. Sri Ramakrishna was probably the most celebrated mystic of all times. A simple man, sometimes with childlike enthusiasm, he explained the most complex concepts of spiritual philosophies in most simple parables, stories and anecdotes. His words flowed from a deep sense of belief in the divinity and his experience of embracing God in a very real form. He directed that the ultimate goal of every living soul is God realization. Having practiced different facets of Hinduism as well of other religions like Islam and Christianity, he preached that all of these religions were different paths that lead up to a single goal, God. To get rid of the thought that he belonged to a higher Brahmanical caste, he began to eat food cooked by the Shudras or lower caste. His influence reached all strata of the society. He did not differentiate between devotees based on caste. He even embraced the skeptics, won them over with his simplistic charm and unselfish love. He was a force of revival to re-energize the decaying Hinduism in 19th century Bengal. His teachings also had profound effect on other religions like the Brahmanism that were forced to re-evaluate their beliefs. Foremost among his innumerable disciples was Swami Vivekananda, who was instrumental in establishing the philosophy of Ramakrishna at a global stage. In 1885 Ramakrishna suffered from throat cancer. In order to consult the best physicians of Calcutta, Ramakrishna was shifted to a devotee's house in Shyampukur by his disciples. But with time, his health started deteriorating and he was taken to a large house at Kausapur. His condition kept worsening, and on 16 August 1886, he died in the eyes of people at the Kausapur Garden House. His legacy did not end with his death. His most prominent disciple Swami Vivekananda carried on his teachings and philosophy to the world through Ramakrishna Mission. He was a divine being in the body of an innocent and childlike man. Today he is not here physically, but his grace and his teachings are still here, and we should make use of them to progress spiritually. We bow down to this divine being.
Ramakrishna Sharanam, Ramakrishna Sharanam, Ramakrishna Sharanam, Sharanam.